At Thanksgiving, my sister announced the family voted me out for being distant. Nobody defended me. Heartbroken, I left and drove back to Chicago. 4 days later, no contact. I'm struggling to process this rejection and wondering how to move forward without my family. I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating me alive for days. I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll just dive in. This past Thanksgiving was the worst day of my life, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened. My family, my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my 2 cousins basically disowned me in the middle of dinner. My sister stood up, said they'd voted, and told me I'm not family anymore. I'm shaking just typing this out. It feels like a bad dream, but it's real, and I don't know how to process it. Sorry if this is long and rambly, but I need to tell someone, even if it's just strangers on the internet. For context, I'm 29, male, single, and I've always been pretty close with my family. Or at least I thought I was. Growing up, it was me, my older sister Lauren, 33, and our parents. We're from a small town in Ohio, the kind where everyone knows each other, and family is everything. My parents are the typical Midwestern couple. Dad's a mechanic, mom's a nurse, and they've always been proud of keeping the family tight-knit. Lauren and I were never best friends, but we got along okay. She's always been the perfect one, straight-A student, married her high school sweetheart, Mike, 34, and now they've got 2 kids, a boy and a girl, 6 and 3. I'm the quieter one, maybe a bit of a black sheep, but I never thought it was this bad. I moved away for college and stayed in Chicago for work. I'm a graphic designer. I don't come home as often as I used to because, well, life gets busy and it's a 5-hour drive. But I always make it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's tradition. Every year we do Thanksgiving at my parents' house, and it's a big deal. Mom spends days cooking, Dad sets up the folding table in the living room, and my cousins Sarah and Ben come over with their partners. It's loud, chaotic, and usually fun. Or it was. This year I got to my parents' house on Wednesday night. Everything seemed normal at first. Mom hugged me, Dad asked about my car, and Lauren was her usual self, busy with the kids and making little comments about how I never visit. I brushed it off because that's just Lauren. She's always been a bit passive-aggressive, especially since she became a mom and decided she's the authority on everything. I figured it was just sibling stuff, you know. We'd bicker, but it was never serious. Thursday morning, I helped Mom in the kitchen while Dad and Mike watched football. The kids were running around, and Sarah and Ben showed up around noon with a couple of pies. It felt like every other Thanksgiving. I even brought a bottle of wine to share, which I thought was a nice touch since I'm usually too broke to contribute much. The table was set, the turkey was carved, and we all sat down around 3 p.m. There were 9 of us. Me, Mom, Dad, Lauren, Mike, their 2 kids, Sarah, and Ben. The kids were at a little card table next to us, giggling and making a mess with their mashed potatoes. Dinner started fine. We said grace, passed the cranberry sauce, and made small talk. I was telling Sarah about a freelance project I'd just finished when Lauren cleared her throat really loudly, like dramatically loudly. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her. She stood up, holding her wine glass, and I thought she was going to make a toast or something. She's always been the one to give sappy speeches about family and gratitude. But instead, she looked right at me and said, "We need to talk about something." My stomach dropped. Her tone was cold, not like her usual fake sweet voice when she's about to lecture me. I laughed nervously and said, "What? Did I forget to bring the green bean casserole?" Nobody laughed. Mom was staring at her plate. Dad was fidgeting with his fork, and Mike wouldn't meet my eyes. Sarah and Ben looked confused, but they didn't say anything. Lauren took a deep breath and said, "We've been talking as a family, and we've come to a decision. We've voted, and we've decided you're not part of this family anymore." I swear, my heart stopped. I thought it was a joke at first, like some weird prank. I looked around the table, waiting for someone to crack a smile or say, "Gotcha." But nobody did. Mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying, and Dad just kept staring at the table. Mike was nodding slightly, like he was backing her up. The kids were still at their table, oblivious, but everyone else was dead silent. I managed to choke out, "What are you talking about?" My voice was shaking, and I felt like I was going to throw up. Lauren didn't even blink. She said, "You've been distant for years. You don't care about us. You don't show up for the kids' birthdays. You don't call Mom and Dad, and you act like you're too good for this family. We're done pretending everything's fine." I was floored. I tried to argue, saying I live 5 hours away. I have a job. I'm not rich. I can't just drop everything to come home every weekend. But she cut me off and started listing all the ways I've failed them. Like how I didn't come to her daughter's first birthday because I was on a deadline for work. Or how I never ask about Mom's health. She had a cancer scare 2 years ago, and I called her every week during that time. But apparently that didn't count. She even brought up how I didn't go to Dad's 60th birthday party last year, which I missed because I had the flu and didn't want to get anyone sick. It was like she'd been keeping a mental list of every mistake I've ever made. The worst part? Nobody stopped her. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Sarah or Ben, who I've always been close with. Mike just sat there, sipping his beer, acting like this was all normal. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. I kept saying, "This is insane. You can't just vote me out of the family." But Lauren doubled down. She said, "We've talked about this for months. You don't fit with us anymore. You've chosen your life in Chicago over us." I looked at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything. She finally spoke, but all she said was, "We just want what's best for everyone." Her voice was so quiet, like she didn't even believe it herself. Dad didn't say a word. He just sat there, looking like he wanted to disappear. Sarah and Ben were whispering to each other, but they didn't speak up either. I felt so alone, like I was on trial and everyone had already decided I was guilty. I don't know how long it went on, maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. Lauren kept talking, saying how I've changed since I moved away, how I'm selfish and don't value family. She even brought up my ex-girlfriend Jenna, who I broke up with 2 years ago, saying I pushed her away, like I'm pushing the family away. That stung, because Jenna and I didn't work out for a lot of reasons, but it wasn't because I didn't care. I tried to explain myself, but every time I opened my mouth, Lauren talked over me. Mike finally chimed in with, "You need to take responsibility for your actions," which made me want to scream because I had no idea what actions they were even talking about. At some point, I just shut down. I couldn't keep arguing with her, with all of them staring at me like I was some kind of criminal. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "Fine. If that's what you want, I'm gone." Mom started crying, but she didn't stop me. Dad mumbled something about talking later, but it was so half-hearted it didn't even matter. Sarah gave me a sad look, but she didn't say anything either. I walked out, got in my car, and drove back to Chicago that night. 5 hours alone, with nothing but my thoughts and a playlist I couldn't even focus on. I haven't heard from any of them since. It's been 4 days, and not a single text or call. I keep replaying it in my head, trying to figure out what I did that was so bad they'd do this. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I don't call as often as I should, and I've missed some family events. But I'm not a monster. I love my family. I've always tried to show up when it matters. I sent Mom flowers when she was in the hospital. I helped Dad fix his truck last summer. I even designed a logo for Mike's stupid side business for free. But none of that seems to matter to them. The vote thing is what gets me the most. Like, they actually sat down, talked about me, and decided I'm not worth keeping around. Who does that? What kind of family treats someone like they're a reality show contestant getting voted off the island? I keep wondering what they said about me when I wasn't there. Did they plan this before I even showed up? Was the whole Thanksgiving dinner just a setup to humiliate me? I'm angry, but I'm also heartbroken. I feel like I've lost everything. My parents aren't perfect, but they're my parents. Lauren's always been a pain, but she's my sister. I used to think we'd always have each other's backs, no matter what. Now I'm questioning everything. Did they ever really care about me? Was I always the odd one out, and I just didn't see it? I keep thinking about the kids, too. They're too young to understand. But what are they going to think when they grow up and realize Uncle Jake isn't around anymore? Are they going to tell them I abandoned them or something? I haven't told anyone in my life about this yet. My friends in Chicago are great, but they're not the type you dump this kind of heavy stuff on. Plus, I'm embarrassed. How do you tell someone your family literally voted you out? It sounds like something out of a bad movie. I've been staying in my apartment, barely eating, just scrolling through old photos of us on my phone. There's one from a few years ago, all of us at Christmas, smiling like nothing could ever go wrong. I don't even recognize those people anymore. I don't know what to do next. Part of me wants to call Mom and Dad, beg them to explain, but I'm scared they'll just double down. Part of me wants to confront Lauren and tell her how cruel she was, but I know she'll just twist it to make me the bad guy. I keep wondering if I should just let it go, move on with my life, and pretend I don't have a family anymore. But that feels impossible. They're my family, or they were. Has anyone else been through something like this? How do you deal with being rejected by the people who are supposed to love you no matter what? I feel so lost, and I don't know how to move forward. Any advice would be appreciated, even if it's just, you'll get through this. I just need to know I'm not alone. Thanks for reading this mess. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I guess I had a lot to say. If you've got any thoughts, I'm all ears.